So before we wrap up, I think Amit and I and the rest of the team here would want to thank you and also sort of address some of the questions that you had in the last 5 minutes. Amit?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think what we want to do is, we started out asking you what kind of things you are interested in, and we gave you an architectural kind of view of OS 10, we gave you the demos and so on. So I want to just close with making sure that we've addressed your questions. And Cliff, if you want to also come up, any other questions you may have. So I'll just walk through, the disaggregated model. We covered it, that we started with hardware and then we've moved it into the software layer. We've disaggregated OS 10, the operating system completely, and Cliff went through the architecture. I think the APIs, we covered the SI layer, the CPS layer, and all the APIs that we allow. I think we covered the stack as well, starting from the base and the premium and so on. Containers, we showed you a demo where containers using Kubernetes was orchestrated and we set up the network. One thing that perhaps, Cliff, you can address is, one of the questions we often get is, how do we support running a container on the switch on the OS itself? We do support that as well. And Cliff, I don't know if you want to address a little bit of that.
Yeah, I can definitely mention that. So with the use of a standard Debian Jessie OS, of course, you get Docker packages for free. So the docker.io package is available on Debian Jessie, and we actually have it installed and running on some of our switches. In the Docker container, you actually have access to all the CPS interfaces. So if people wanted to roll out applications in a Docker container to a variety of switches, that's very possible. In fact, again, that's where we're doing some additional prototyping upstairs too, but it wasn't quite ready for today.
Yeah,
thanks.
And thank you. And then, I think somebody, Greg, I think you mentioned comprehensive view and the composable. How is this composable infrastructure? So clearly, I think hopefully we've been able to paint a picture that in the data center, we certainly see composable pieces, both from hardware as well as from software perspective. So 2 years back, we started the journey of saying, hey, separate the software and the hardware. Started with Cumulus, we've added other partners. Now we've taken the OS, our own OS, and again, disaggregated that. So that's hopefully kind of a view of where we are going. I think we've kind of addressed some of this, but we'll pause here, make sure for the remaining period of time we have. Any other questions you may have?
Correct.
If you want to just also come in.
So on the campus switches, you're doing 802.1BR, which is, Cisco calls it FEX, Juniper calls it Virtual Chassis, I think. Brocade calls it HyperEdge. That's your reaction to the campus networking thing, where you have the...
Yeah, so let me just paint a little bit of, in the campus, clearly the focus is on how do I simplify a campus network, right? And underneath the technology used is .1BR. But I think we believe that simplification of networks in the campus is key, is important. How do we bring together and simplify management from one place? And we believe that technology had a lot of potential and it helped simplify. And as we've introduced the C9000 and we are engaged with customer discussions, we find that architecture, FEX architecture, which Cisco introduced in the data center, is actually very, very relevant in the campus, even more so. Because in the data center, you can argue there's a lot of east-west traffic. Yeah, so hairpinning all the way back and forth.
802.1BR doesn't make any sense in the data center, to my mind, except for maybe some very low-cost gig ports.
Correct.
But it's so complicated to make it work. It's unreliable, it's unstable.
So I think in the campus, given the north-south traffic is much more, we believe it helps simplify manageability and so
much larger fan-out from devices like this. So this is the C9010 chassis.
But you don't have the density in the campus, right? Sometimes you want 200 devices. You don't need a separate switch fabric for all devices.
Correct.
Because they're not all working at once.
Exactly.
The duty cycle's only like 10%, not 100% like a data center can be.
So that's why, we have a range of offerings, as I said, small to large, and on the high end is where we see this kind of on the larger mid-sized customers, this relevant.
Partnerships. So one of the big things about OS 10, and I know OS 10 is just starting out, right? So it's got a long way to travel before there's maturity, except the caveats around that, right? But are you likely to, do you think you'll be able to build an ecosystem where people bring their apps to that platform? So keep in mind that there's a competitive space here in the sense that there's an open switch and there's an open network Linux. they're all differentiated in some way. So they've all got something, OpenNet Linux is focused on the flow, OpenFlow, plus open, that type of thing. And Cumulus is using it for their purposes. HP's got OpenSwitch, which they're pushing out there, which is an open operating system. And now this one. Do you think you can build an ecosystem around it? Is there value that you can offer to attract contributors?
So I think.
So let me just sort of address that. The whole idea behind disaggregating the OS itself in between a base and a premium component and offering the base component as essentially a free package was to have our technology partners work with us, collaborate with us, and create a whole ecosystem of apps around that. And we've just started on that journey. Your point is very right. I mean, this is sort of a long-term initiative, but the goal is exactly that, is to have an ecosystem of technology partners who will create solutions around the programmatic interfaces and the development environment that we have enabled in OS 10 that we have seen today. So absolutely, that's exactly the journey.
And maybe just to add to that, we've tried to be very inclusive in this software release, as you've noticed. So you can almost consider Linux as an app store itself. So already with using a standard Debian environment, we have a huge app store, and we actually already have people out there writing applications for us for free.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, and actually I think the customers get the best out of that. And then, again, we're looking at doing more of that with our CPS
I guess that's
interfaces, making that
part of it, isn't it? They're writing them, and they might be popping them into GitHub, but a little curation might encourage. I don't want to have to go searching for GitHub and find a project written by somebody who, would be helpful.
Well, that's an excellent point, and that's again why if you take a publicly supported or like a normally supported OS like Debian or like Red Hat or like Ubuntu, they all have maintainers for those packages, and actually the maintainers themselves will go do the bug fixing, like find out all the right bug fixes for you, find the right security updates, and it's really for us not to. From a Dell perspective, we didn't want to go out and conflict or have make more layers there. They already do a nice job in it, and so you get those applications.
Sorry, I'm more thinking of network apps, right? So the BGP app we looked at
BGP app
today,
or the container app.
it would be nice to be curated to say this is an app that we endorse or
we support or stand behind. Yeah.
Or no, not stand behind because you're not going to take support for it, but because otherwise I've got to go wandering through the internet looking for GitHub projects that.
I think the point is, how do we make all these apps easily accessible and available to the customer and take it to the customers?
Right? It's not even making it accessible. It's just build a community, and the communities need a little leadership, and you've got resources and capabilities.
Correct.
Okay. That's good feedback.
Good feedback, and we've started doing that. I mean, if you've seen it with SciLayer, we've done that, and now we extend it to the CPS layer and so on. So clearly, good feedback.
But if you start that earlier, not later, I think